All right, page 40 in our last page of our Unit 1 notes. So these last couple we'll talk about simple interest and one with distance equals rate times time. So the first one, how much will Pam earn in 4 years if she invests $3,000 in an account that pays 3.5% simple interest? So I equals P times R times T. And I typically, do a little outline here with all of my different variables that I have to think about. So interest, how much interest is the question? So we don't know what, that's our unknown. So we must have something else for each of these. Principal is how much she invests, which is going to be the $3,000. The rate is 3.5%. So don't forget this will need to become a decimal. So 0.035 will be what we actually put into the equation. And then the time is 4 years. So going to the equation, so I equals 3,000 times 0.035 times 4. And when we multiply those all together, we get 420. And remember, that's the amount of interest she earned. So you could put the dollar sign on there and say interest earned for the label. That one is fairly straightforward. The one that's not quite as straightforward, it ends up being a two-step equation, is the next one where we don't know one of the variables on the right-hand side. So when the unknown is over here, we do have to do an additional step. So let's look at that. Eduardo is investing 4% at 4% simple interest. After 5 years, he has earned $2,400 in interest. How much did he originally invest? So we can also work this formula backwards. So I equals p.40. Okay, so interest was $2,400 earned. The principal we don't know. That's how much he originally invested. That's the question that we have. The rate is 4%. Don't forget to change to 0.04 as a decimal for that. And then the time is 5 years. And plug those in. So 2,400 equals P times 0.04 times 5. So we do need to do a little cleanup over here because the 0.04 times 5, we can go ahead and multiply those and get the specific value. So that's going to be 0.2p equals 2,400. So that's the extra step that we have to do. We just have to clean that up a little bit. Now it looks like other ones that we've dealt with. It's something multiplied by our variable, so we're going to undo that by dividing by that number. So the 2,400 0.2p is all going to get divided by that 0.2 so that the p will end up by itself multiplied by 1. And 2,400 divided by 0.2 will be 12,000. And don't forget this is an amount of money that was invested. So you would want to put the the dollar sign on there and say $12,000 is the original investment. Something like that for your answer. So these are a little bit easier sometimes to figure out what goes where than with the percent problems because there's so many ways that the percent formula can be used to look at different situations, whether you're talking about taxes or discounts or commissions or things of that nature. All right, last one here. On a road trip, a family drives for 16 hours and covers 1,200 miles. What was their average speed? Use the formula distance equals rate times time. All right, so Distance equals rate times time. Okay, so go off to the side here, figure out what we've got. Okay, distance was 1,200 miles. Rate, that's what we don't know, the average speed there. And then the time is the 16 hours. And then plug into the formula and solve for the one that we don't know, R. So 1,200 equals R times 16. You can rewrite this as 16R before you move on, but you don't have to. We're essentially just going to be dividing by 16 anyway to undo that multiplication and get R by itself. So R is then going to be 1,200 divided by 16, which is 75. And remember that this is in miles per hour. So because we have a distance and the time are in miles and hours, and our rate is going to be the distance divided by the time. So we take the distance and divide by the time. So 75 miles per hour, or MPH, would be our answer correctly labeled. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they were going again over the speed limit, because they could be out west where there are speed limits of 80 in some areas of the interstate. Believe me, I know this because we took our teen drivers and had them do some of that driving when we were out west last summer. So fun times. But anyway, so you could have 75 miles per hour without going over the speed limit. And, you know, there are places in Michigan that you can go 75 on the interstates as well. Okay, so that was our last one. We'll talk about any questions you guys have in class and make sure everyone is ready to take the test when we get back together.